Hey, good morning and welcome to EuroNurse. Hope everybody's having a fun day today. We meet every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you're watching us live, great. Glad to have you on board live. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for you YouTubers. If this is your first time joining us, be sure to check out our website at euronurse.com, the best place to go to learn more about the show. Also, best place to go to watch all of our past episodes. And boy, we got a bunch of them, 102 episodes. If you want to watch us or listen to us in your car, check out our EuroNurse Plus area where you can get our audio podcast that comes out every week. Any of your favorite podcasting platforms, we're available. This week, we got a great show. Hey, we're going to be talking about money and how to preserve your wealth, especially for people that are in the healthcare industry. So we want to get to that one right now. And I'm going to bring in our experts right now. And experts, welcome to the show. Great show. So I'll start out with my own little thing. I'm Vic Sinise, and I am the host and producer of the show. Been involved in urology for the past 40 years and love paying it back. And here's a little thing I've got in a recent comment I wanted to share with everybody. This came in. Hey, hi, Vic. I'm informing you that via EuroNurse, I learned of the Lumia prostate biopsy system and presented it to our leadership. We will be adapting Lumia in our clinic starting on Monday. Way to go. Adopting a new product is a big deal, given that I work for the VA and it takes work to get things approved. I want to express my sincere gratitude for your support and guidance. And I love getting things like that back just to show us that we're making a difference and helping people out, because I thought that was a great episode too. All right, Lori, I'm going to let you go ahead and give your introduction.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Atkinson. I'm a certified urology registered nurse. I have been in urology for, I'm aging myself, for 26 years now. And I currently work for a large urology practice in Geneva and Winfield, Illinois. And it's true, Vic, because I use these for training staff all the time. It's great information.
Yeah, great. John, welcome to the show. Give us your intro.
Good morning, everyone. I am passionate about helping urology practices succeed so they can reach maximum clinical and financial efficiency. And to that end, I created the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group, where we crowdsource practice management solutions for everyone's benefit, and it is all for free. I frequently speak on the topics of coding, billing, revenue cycle management, marketing, and how to run your practices more efficiently in the era of declining reimbursement and rising overhead costs. I will be speaking at the Louisiana Urologic Society meeting in August and the South Central Section AUA meeting in October and the Urology Advanced Coding and Reimbursement Seminar in December, so I hope to catch you all there. I am John Lynn, a private practice urologist in Gilbert, Arizona, and I look forward to our discussion today about perhaps the most important topic in urology, and that is finances, because your patient's success depends on your success. And your number one job is really to run a profitable business so you will have the ability to serve your patients. And to that end, I will leave everyone three things. I grew up with not much when I immigrated to the States. So the three things that I learned about finances are, number one, it is never too late to start. The best day to start is today, not yesterday, not we wish you started yesterday, and not you should analyze a little bit more and then start tomorrow. The best day to start is today. And number two, educate yourself. There's so much information out there that you can glean for free, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to get that information. That said, I do recommend reading books about finances. And lastly, watch out for fees. Watch out for fees. Back to you, Vic.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to bring our expert in, Bill Decker, who's going to be telling us how we can all invest our money and try to secure a good retirement for us. So, Bill, go ahead and give your introduction, then we'll bring your slides up.
Great, thanks. Hi, my name is Bill Decker. I'm an independent advisor. I founded a company called Navigating the Retirement Red Zone, which specializes in helping people do retirement planning, making the transition from working and using your assets to create your lifestyle. And I think John, John, all three topics that John talked about were right on the money. So I don't want to double what he said, but he really, I think I'll maybe even borrow you next time I need to do a presentation and just
Please
hit
do.
record. You could be the voice for that. So that was really good. So thanks.
All right, let's get your show on the line here. There you go. Take it away.
All right. So today we're just going to talk about education, really just educating on a couple ideas on preparing yourself for retirement planning, looking at some income solutions, some tax strategies, and really the importance of some estate planning. I think that was one of the things that actually got me into this industry, was some family situations that arose from poor estate planning and the problems that created. So just, a little bit about myself. I kind of already introduced myself, but when we think about money and why we save money, at the end of the day, we can always make more money, but we cannot get more time. And at the end of the day, when we think about retirement planning, that gives us the money that we save, gives us the amount of time that we're going to have, because we're no longer having to exchange our time for money. Maybe you're already in a field that you love, that you don't do it for money anymore. You do it because it's your passion, and that's fantastic. But having that time away to vacation, maybe support charities, it's different for everybody. But it's money at the end of the day gives you the time to make those choices. And maybe you've been putting something off that's been a passion project. Again, having that time is really even more important than money. When you start becoming serious about financial planning, I think there's 4 questions that it's important for people to start considering. As John mentioned earlier, even if you haven't started, it's never too late. But if you're already in the process of retirement planning, and most people today, how they're saving for retirement is they're putting money in a 401k or maybe some IRAs. But do you really know, number one, what's the rate of return that you need on the money that you've already accumulated to maintain the lifestyle or the standard of living to last your life expectancy when you stop working? Number 2 is, how much do you need to have saved to maintain your lifestyle when you stop working? And if you're not retired yet, how many more years do you have to continue to work to get to that number? And if you really don't want to worry about those numbers, then you should ask yourself, maybe if I don't do anything different than what I'm doing right now, how much will I have to reduce my lifestyle when I stop working? Okay. And the answer to these questions, maybe it sounds a little heavy if you're thinking about it for the first time or haven't given it a lot of thought, but having the answers to these questions makes it better for you or easier for you as you start researching retirement planning, different vehicles, what different products can do for you. Because when you have your numbers in line, you more know what you're looking for to fill in a gap that you might have. If you're still, I've got a couple of years to keep working, or, I not making enough return on my money for where I want to be. So when you have those numbers in place and have them fixed, it makes it a lot easier to start doing the research and finding ideas and solutions that are going to help you get to that point that you want to be at. For most people today, it's a lot easier to be a saver. I talked about earlier, most people use the 401k or IRAs to save for retirement. And they might have a money manager and they might be doing it themselves. It's not that hard today to do it for themselves. Where the challenge comes in for a lot of people is when we get to the top of the mountain, now we come into retirement. Now we need to start living off of the savings. And just some of the questions that come into, to play is, should I use annuities or not for income? And there's really no blanket answer for that. They can be great vehicles, certain types of annuities, to help create lifetime income for you and your spouse. One of the other questions is my longevity. How long do I plan on, what's my life expectancy? Where does that go in? If I don't want to use annuities, I need to come up with a different withdrawal strategy, and how much is that going to be every year that I'm going to take off of that savings? And then there's other ways of looking at protecting that from market volatility, because if you start withdrawing from the accounts that we've traditionally used, most of them are tied to the market. Most people have used the stock market or bonds to use their savings, if it's IRA money or 401ks. How do we go about protecting that so when we start taking those withdrawals and we do have a downturn in the market, it's not as catastrophic as it could be? How do we do protecting that? We have to start thinking about claiming Social Security. What's the right age? Again, it's not everybody's situation is a little bit different. Do I want to keep working? Do I want to maybe start a new career, my passion project? Do I have long-term care costs? Am I going to have parents to take care of? Maybe siblings. I've got other expenses, family expenses that I know are going to be coming up. Everyone's situation is a little bit different. And that's where it gets harder in finding people doing the research. I think John hit it on, the head on when he was making his introduction, how important it is to research for what your needs are. I'm a big proponent of using the bucket strategies when we're thinking about this. Most of us have always been very familiar with the yellow bucket because it's been long-term planning. Some people, we talked to have been started at 20. Some people didn't start till 30 or 40, but it's been long-term planning. When we talk about long-term, we kind of think about 10 years or longer in terms of what long-term planning looks like. And that's where most of us come from. We haven't considered what the purple bucket looks like, our current spending, and what our short-term reserves are. And why I like going through the bucket analogy here is when you're thinking about it, okay, I have X amount of expenses that I need to take care of. And usually I like to look at 5-year windows. For the next 5 years, this is what I need to live on. This is what I need to withdraw. That should be as safe as possible. That should be in non-market affiliated type accounts, very safe, fixed kind of interest rates. The next bucket, that green bucket, typically like a 5 to 10 year window, okay? Where say I don't need it immediately, maybe I could take a little bit more risk, with that, looking for higher gains. But I don't want to I'm not really willing to put it the same as a 10-year recovery window because I have longer periods of time to work with those ups and downs. And that's kind of the bucket strategy of taking ideas on how to prioritize how my portfolio should be made up. It's not just one size fits all when you really get into retirement years. For most people, outside of real estate, okay, which is completely a little bit different topic, there's the four options that people are most familiar with. Number one is using annuities for income. The second thing is using bonds. Okay, bonds can be great. There's municipal bonds are federally tax-free, so you do get the advantage of those. Most municipalities, they don't pay the highest returns, but they're pretty steady. They're consistent. Very rarely do cities go bankrupt. It happens once in a while, but they're considered to be safe investments. Then you have your total return approach, which is, we're looking for maximum return. Okay, that's where maybe investing in newer companies or stocks that have much bigger upside. One of the stocks like right now that kind of comes to mind is like a NVIDIA, these AI type chips, and that have these huge growth potentials. We don't know if they're going to be around in 5 years, but no one knew about Amazon, 25 years ago either, how long they would be. And, obviously they've done well. And then we also look at income producing equities. And these are the type of companies like a Coca-Cola, okay? American Express. They've been around, they're proven. They're not going to have huge growth, but they're going to pay dividends every year. They're going to pay like a Chevron, okay? Energy companies, utilities. Not huge growth in terms of the stock growing, but every year you're going to get 3, 4, sometimes 5% dividends. And people use that to continue to pay or live off of their portfolio. So these are kind of the investment options that we have, but it's sitting back and saying, what fits in my need? Okay. Back to those 4 questions we talked about earlier. You know, all this could sound kind of Greek if you're not really familiar with it. But once you know the return amount that I need to return, how long I have, what's my window that I either need to keep working or keep saving, and then what do I need to maintain my lifestyle, these choices become easier to make because it's like, I don't need high returns. I need to maintain what I have. I'm going to go away from the total stock approach. Okay. I'm going to maybe look at an income annuity or equities, okay, or possibly bonds. If I know, boy, I'm behind and I need to, you know, grow quickly, or, you know, I need better returns, well, then bonds not really going to help you do that, okay? You want to be looking at the, you know, a total return approach or more of an equities type situation. So when you have those numbers, going back to that the beginning premise there, it makes it a lot easier to help you make the choices that are going to fit your needs. That's kind of what I'm talking about, you know, investments and how to go about making some considerations on what works best for you. I would like to hit up on a little bit about taxes, okay? And most of us have used IRAs or 401ks, 403bs, 457s, some kind of tax deferred plan through our employers. And then maybe outside of that, we like to take the tax deduction now, thinking we're going to pay taxes in the future on that money. So it grows tax deferred. It's great. Unfortunately, we were told many years ago, hey, you keep saving, and then you get ready to retire, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. I always thought that advice was kind of funny. Excuse me. Because it's like, well, wait a second. I'm going to take advice for somebody to help me grow my wealth, but then when I get ready to retire, I'm going to have less money than I'm used to living on. It just never really sat right with me as terms of advice, but it's what we've been told over and over again. You're going to be in a lower tax bracket. The reality is we're probably not, okay? Because we get accustomed to our lifestyle, and that's what we want to maintain. And if we've been using these tax deferred accounts, there's a huge IOU back to the IRS, okay? We've got a partnership. You've got $1 million saved in your retirement account. As for instance, and you're in a 22% tax bracket, income-wise, that $1 million to you really is only worth $780,000 because 22% of that already goes. Uncle Sam has a claim to that. He's your partner in that. And then if you have state income taxes on those withdrawals also, there's another partner that dwindles that down. So it's important to have some strategies and some ways to diversify your holdings and the taxes that are going to be due. There's a couple of ways that we're going to talk about that, just to kind of make you aware of those situations. Because when people come down and we start going through their stuff, so many times they don't, it's never been a consideration of how much they actually are going to owe of that complete account balance in taxes. And again, I'm a big proponent of using buckets, okay, or as conceptually thinking about things. We have either tax deferred money, which is like your 401ks, your IRAs, pensions, even Social Security, you know, you're not paying on it until you start receiving it. Then you have taxable money. This is what your earnings are. Money that sits in a bank account, CDs, you get 1099 on those. And then you have tax-free money. In tax-free money, the two most common ways of creating tax-free money right now is Roth IRAs. Municipal bonds is an investment that you don't have to pay federal taxes on. And there's also certain types of life insurance. When this topic comes up, life insurance, there's all sorts of different reactions to that. I don't. But most people don't understand how to use cash value life insurance for income purposes. Most people think of life insurance as I'm buying something so there's money available when I pass to help my family. But over the years, people have figured out ways to utilize the mechanisms inside of life insurance companies to generate substantial returns. So much so that actually in the 1980s, the IRS started making rules and limiting how much money people could put aside in these cash value life insurance policies. They limited, there was a limit to how much money they would allow people to put into a life insurance policy to allow income to come out while they were living, to live off of that and not have to pay taxes on the gains as it sat in there. Similar to like your 401k or your Roth IRA, you let that percolate over a period of years. Well, people were using cash value life insurance to do the same thing. In the Secure Act of 2020, the last time they made some updates in that, they did increase the code to allow people to put more money into this. These are IRS rules that we follow when we're building these type of plans for people. They're not for everybody, but it's something to consider if you're looking for other ways to diversify your taxes and not have to pay on the withdrawals in the future. Just conceptually think about this if the idea is still a little bit new. I know no one is going to go to Starbucks, and buy a coffee with their retirement account. But conceptually thinking about it, we're going to spend $5 on a coffee. And if I pay for that out of a retirement account, it's going to cost me $6.10 at the 22% tax bracket. If I want to go buy a car, then I'm getting ready to retire. When I go buy a car, it's $40,000 vehicle. I have to pull out $48,800 to pay for that $40,000 vehicle out of my tax deferred savings account. Maybe I want to go put a down payment on my house, my lake house, my retirement home, my second home, my beach home, wherever it may be in the mountains. If I need to go take $250,000 and it's coming from a tax deferred account, I've got to withdraw $305,000 for that $250,000 purchase because the taxes are due when we start withdrawing that. When we start thinking about that, what can we do? What solutions do we have? One thing is what's called the Roth conversion. Now, if anybody's familiar with Roths, you've probably heard, my employer owns it, or offers that to me. I've seen people advertise, they talk about them, but there's limitations. If I'm under 50 years old, I can, put $6,000. If I'm over 50, I can do a little bit of catch up, and I'm putting $7,500 a year in there. But I need to be putting more money away if I'm going to save for retirement. If I'm maxing out my IRA or my 401k, it's double those numbers. It doesn't seem like the Roth is enough. Roth conversions has no limits. And what Roth conversion really is we're taking IRA money, tax deferred money that's qualified, that's set up as a tax deferred savings plan. We're paying the taxes now on that money and putting it into a Roth IRA. So now, when we take those money out, there's no taxes. And as long as it sits in there and it continues to grow, there's no taxes on the growth. We pay the taxes one time. Thinking about that, people, I'm not sure that makes any sense to me. A little analogy. Let's say you're a farmer. and the IRS comes out to you and says, look, we're going to make you a one-time offer this year. We're going to allow you to pay taxes on the seeds before you plant your crops, or we're going to allow you to pay the taxes on your crops when you go out and harvest all your crops and sell them. Well, what number is going to be lower? The number on the seeds or the number on the crops? What would you want to pay taxes on? The lower number or the higher number? There's no right or wrong answer, but whatever makes sense for yourself. And that's what the Roth conversion does. If you know you still got a few more years of working, you're past 59 and a half. There's even ways of doing it if you're under 59 and a half. It just has to be structured properly with IRS rules. You can start taking money from those tax deferred accounts and converting it over into these Roth accounts. So you're getting that extra 10 or 15, 7 years, however more years you have till you have to start withdrawing. It's able to keep growing. But now you're not going to have to pay the taxes on that growth. You're paying the taxes at the value that it is now and not the taxes on the value that it will be in the future. And that's how a Roth conversion works. The pros to that is, it's a great tax strategy. You don't have the RMDs to come due when you turn 73 or even 75 because they're pushing those numbers back. The cons to the Roth is, the funds are normally held, into the stock market because we're converting people's IRAs. There's low conversion contribution limits, but there's no limits to the conversions. This is also for high income earners because if you make too much money, you also can't contribute to a Roth, but you can max out your tax deferred plan and convert those every year at the end of the year and just pay the taxes on the conversions. And it makes a lot of sense that way. How so? Why does that make sense, if you're asking, Bill? Well, because here's a chart that shows when the IRS was started in 1913 till last year. These are the nominal tax rates that we've had in the history of the IRS since 1913. We can see that the lower tax brackets, we are at the lowest we have been in the last 10 years in terms of federal taxes, okay? The lowest tax brackets, 10 to 15%, we have not been that low. From 1913 all the way up to really 1983, the lowest tax brackets were at 20%. In the 80s, we had some reductions. They haven't really gone up. Taxes are still on sale. We have a huge federal debt that somehow is going to have to get paid back. We haven't had a federal debt deficit compared to our gross domestic product since the end of World War II. And we can see where taxes went up after World War II. Okay, from the 1940s into the 60s, we can see that taxes were going up, more money was collected. That deficit did get paid down, and we're very much in a similar situation. So if you do think taxes will be higher in the future, Roth conversions can make sense. Here's some tax brackets on current tax brackets for this year 24 and how a Roth conversion works. I'm going to stay in the 22% tax bracket because that's what we were using. So let's say you're a married couple, and between the two of you, you're making $175,000 a year between the two of you. If we look at the tax bracket, the 22%, it's the third column down, okay? You can earn up to $201,000 and still stay in the 22% tax bracket. So what they're saying is I make $175,000, I still have $26,000 that I can earn and still stay in the 22% tax bracket. So what we would do in a scenario like that is we would convert $26,000 of your IRA money into a Roth, pay the taxes on that $26,000 at the 22%, and now that money's off the tax rolls. Let's say you don't qualify for a Roth because you make too much money. You make $230,000. Let's say $250,000. The next tax bracket, you're the 24% tax bracket if we go down the next line, but you could earn up to $383,000. That's 138, it took me $133,000 that you could earn, that you could convert, pay the taxes now and never have to pay the taxes later. As it grows and you start withdrawing, that's how you keep your tax deferred buckets working that. In finding buckets to withdraw in tax-free type accounts. And that's a basic overview on how a Roth conversion would work and how we would structure that. It's usually not done in one time. It's something that's done over the course of several years, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Usually it takes to get most people's money converted, and maybe even a little longer, depending on what your situation is and what we're trying to accomplish. Again, once you do the Roth conversion, we're still back to the same investment options. Okay, you could put it in real estate, you could do annuities, you could do your bond portfolio, your stock approach. That doesn't change. All the investments that you were using previous to the Roth conversion, they're still in place. The difference now is that it grows tax-free and the withdrawals tax-free. We're off the tax rolls. Again, municipal bonds is another way of looking at tax strategies to reduce federal income tax. And then the properly funded life insurance accounts. Here's the pros. Everything that we've kind of talked about, you even get some safe harbor from creditors. You get liquidity. You can use the money for whatever you want. Sometimes some of these insurance carriers also have some living benefits where you can make up use some of the money for long-term care if you're needed. But here's the problem. Here's the cons with it. The premiums, they're not tax deductible when you fund these long-term or fund these life insurance contracts. The gains have caps. Okay, you might be mirroring the S&P 500, but if the S&P 500 goes up 15%, the insurance company is probably only going to give you maybe 8 or 10% of that. So you're limited, but you're also limited on how much you can lose. You never lose your account value. Okay, there's a structure inside of these contracts that are very unique in that way. They're expensive to get started. It's not a great investment for the first couple years. It's a long-term play. It takes, because you're buying an insurance contract, we're buying the minimum death benefit possible when we're doing that, using these type of contracts, but you are not looking for the largest death benefit. You're looking for the smallest death benefit the IRS allows to max fund it. But you do have to pay for that insurance. For the first couple of years, you don't see the returns. After year 5, it becomes great. And after year 10 or longer, it's really quite a fantastic vehicle on how to save for retirement. But it is a longer window than what we're typically used to. And the other thing is you do have to qualify health-wise on that. So that kind of summarizes up the some ideas, some concepts that you could consider when looking at some different tax strategies to help with your retirement planning. Just another summary. I think if you're looking at different things, these are ideas that we want to protect ourselves with. If we're looking at the benefits of investing, tax deductible is always a great idea. Tax deferred growth, we like that, not having to pay on growth. Boy, if I could get tax-free distribution, that's even better. If I can get a competitive rate of return, today our fixed interest rates are higher than we've really seen in over 20 years. I want to stay competitive when I'm looking at that. Something I could put unlimited contributions in. I'm not limited to. Being safe from creditors. If I'm looking, for investment ideas, as many boxes as I can check off of here, these help make my decisions easier. If I don't have these boxes to check off, maybe it's not the right place for me to be putting my money or saving. And then market loss from protection. If we're looking at ways of not having to deal with market downturns, especially as we get closer to retirement and have to start pulling money out, if we can protect our principal and still participate in the market. Is that a vehicle or a purpose that works for you? These are questions, that you should be asking yourself. Enough on that. We'll just kind of wrap up today with some real quick ideas on estate planning. One of the questions we get all the time, I'm amazed at how many people come in to us and don't have a will or a trust. Everybody, yes. The answer is yes. You need one or the other, usually both. I believe if you're looking at any kind of estate planning, or you have any kind of assets to pass to your children, if you have more than one child, get a trust. Okay. It's amazing what happens when siblings that have gotten along for years, never had any problem. Parents pass away and something takes place and the bickering starts and different things take place. A trust eliminates all that. Having a will is great, but it doesn't, a will still makes you have to go through probate. Okay. A trust, basically there's an executor, things pass a lot quicker. You pay a little bit more money up front. Okay. But it saves you money on the back end, because so much time, if there's ever a conflict with somebody and they start contesting the will and it has to go through probate, that eats up, usually costs more than what it would have cost to just pay for the trust up front. Probate can be a real hassle. The will has to be authenticated. Then the assets have to be appraised. Settlement and payments of outstanding debts, filing and paying final tax returns. This is how I got started in this business, was this exact situation. My grandfather passed away. Short story, taxes had to get paid before the probate could be settled. He didn't have a trust. He only had a will. My mom was a single mom, school teacher. She had to go borrow money to pay the taxes before they could settle probate. The bank that held my grandfather's money would not give my mom a loan. She had to go for another loan, pay a higher interest rate on money that was going to be available to her as soon as the probate settled, but they wouldn't settle it until the taxes were paid. A trust would have taken care of all that. It just really made that whole process a lot easier. Again, anything that you can do to help minimize probate, life insurance is fantastic for that. Qualified accounts, your 401k, make sure your beneficiaries are in line. Okay. That they're, sometimes people get divorced, old spouses, someone may have passed. That would hold up the distribution of that. Make sure that your beneficiaries are updated. Annuities also allow money to pass. Obviously, trust, what we just talked about, and joint accounts make it a lot easier to bypass probate. Kind of the advantages and disadvantages of a will. You do get to direct your assets. It's simple and affordable, and it applies guidance to the court and the family. But again, you're still dealing with the courts. The disadvantages, they're not legally binding. People can contest them all the time. And it's not always, you lose control of what some of your intentions are if something was really important for you or someone to have. You wanted someone to have something. Wills don't always guarantee that works out. A trust will make that more, chances are more in your favor that it'll work out that way. The other advantages are the real things is important in the trust is your power of attorney. That should be taken care of. Okay. In case something happens to you, who's going to handle your finances and make those decisions? And the other one, you're in the health field here, so you understand the healthcare power of attorney. Who's going to make those hard choices? Okay. Do not resuscitate. What kind of care do you want? If you're not able to make those decisions, having those documents in place are really important. So, and I think I'm going to pretty much wrap up what we were kind of talking about today. I know we're coming up late here on the hour. I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me be here, Vic, and talking with everybody today. If you have any questions or some information, there's going to be a link that you can link onto. There's some downloadable pieces that you can go through. It'll talk about Roth conversions and some market volatility solutions that you can go and read some of the information and get some of your research done. And I think we'll open it up for questions now.
Thanks, Bill. That was really great. That link will be on the EuroNurse website once I get that up after the show for those handouts. And this is a great time. If you have any questions for Bill, go ahead and put those in the comments section. But I'll open it up to our experts right now. Lori or Dr. Lynn, any thoughts, questions? You guys are just both so loaded, it doesn't matter, right?
I'm looking at this going, oh my God, I need to get my act together, man. I'm 52, going to be 53. I'm like, oh boy, it really puts it into perspective. Thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a difficult topic because everybody's understanding of finances and money is so variable. It's hard to give a presentation without knowing the context, the sophistication of the person receiving this information. And I always like to speak from a very, very basic level, and people need to understand what is money and your feelings about money. And somebody asked about the books that we would recommend. I'll put it in a link, or I'll put the link in the comments. One book may be from Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money. You have to understand how you feel about money and your emotions around money. Investing is not. Yes, people say personal finance is personal. Yeah, most of it is emotional. Money is very emotional to a lot of people, and rich people, wealthy people talk about money all the time, but the middle class and the people in the lower economic strata, they do not talk about money. They think money is something bad to talk about, whereas the wealthy people talk about money all the time. So get that out of the way. I didn't learn about compound interest until I was in my mid-30s. I took a course and then they said compound interest. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. Time for the young people listening to this podcast or webinar, time is your friend. And a book from Ben Graham's book, The Intelligent Investor. If you are investing, it is assumed that you are a long-term investor. If you're not investing for the long term, meaning you put the money in and you let it ride, if you're not doing that, you're simply speculating. You're taking chances, and risk is something a lot of people don't talk about in investments. Any time of instruments like annuities and insurances or retirement plans wrapped inside of an insurance product, you always have to be mindful of the pros and cons, the fees that are associated, and something not a lot of people think about: opportunity cost. And what does that mean? What is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost means if I put my money in this financial instrument, what are the opportunities that I'm missing out on by deploying the same money elsewhere? What are the costs involved? What is the potential return? What are the risks that I would take between A and B? So those are some of the things that you want to think about. And again, I'll put the link to a couple of the books in the comment section.
You know, you talk about books. I read one book on investment early on in my career, and I can't think of who the author was, but his whole advice was the way he was successful is he invested in things that he liked. He said his wife came home and she had this egg-shaped thing that had pantyhose in it called legs. And he said, that is so neat. She said, yeah, I love it. This is great. So he went and bought a bunch of stock in that company. So I've been kind of a computer nut my whole life. And after I had bought my first Apple, I'm like, I really like this device, and decided I would buy a lot of Apple stock. And I can't complain about that investment. So I think that was my big, I wish I remember the name of the book. I would put it out there, but it was invest in things that you really like. Do we have any comments, Lori, from the crew here?
Yes, we do. So I think you pronounce it Nyasha. Wonderful presentation. And she talked about maybe giving 3 to 5 financial books that you'd recommend we add to the library that will help us expand the knowledge on all the topics you've covered today. Do you have any books that you can throw out there? That
I do. On this topic, when it comes to retirement planning, there's an author by the name of his name is Wade Pfau. Okay, I don't know if you see this. I'll send the information over here. His last name is spelled Pfau. Pfau, and Wade is his first name, Wade. He's actually an instructor for me for my RICP class, but he does an excellent job of what John was talking about. We're analyzing fees and analyzing your need for retirement, taking off when you're looking at opportunity cost or what it is, what you're trying to accomplish, and having that defined before you start making decisions or shopping around. He does a great job of talking about that. The other book I'd recommend is by Ed Slott. He, especially if you've used the IRA, this is going to fall down, but Ed Slott, if you've used IRAs to save for retirement or 401ks, the tax strategies that he runs through here, he's a CPA, excellent job of walking you through, making it very simple to understand different tax strategies to help eliminate some of the taxes and get as much of your savings off the tax rolls before RMDs come in. Excellent information on here.
Thank you.
I have a question on the 1 second. On the IRA. So if you have an IRA, a Roth IRA, you don't pay any taxes on the interest you earn after that too?
Correct. Once it's in a Roth, once it's in there, the biggest a brand new Roth has to be in place for 5 years.
Okay.
No matter when you open it, if you start, doing contributions or if you're doing the conversions, once it's been for 5 years, the withdrawals are now tax-free. And the gains they're deferred just like a regular IRA.
Yeah.
Most people, high earners, forget about the Roth because they don't qualify. Okay. And then the other part, when you're looking at it, it's like, well, I can only put so much a year into this. I'm not saving enough. And that's why they get pushed to the side, in my opinion. Okay. As people look at them and say, well, it doesn't work for me. There's not enough information, in my opinion, about converting, because there's no limitations. There's no income limitations. There's no amount. You can convert as much as you want. It just makes sense to not pay more than you need to. I would never convert somebody, all at one time. Okay. It's your tax bracket is going to determine what's the right amount to convert year by year.
For the high income earners, just keep in mind that there is a way to contribute to Roth, and that's called backdoor Roth. So don't think that you're exempt.
No, same thing. Exactly. You're converting every year, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's exactly the backdoor Roth. Yep.
All right.
Again,
Then Tabo has a question. If one has a trust, do they need to register it with the court, or is having it notarized enough?
Usually you got to send it through, you go through an attorney, or you can actually go through one of the legal documents, and then having that registered and notarized is what you need. But you want to make sure you name an executor and that they know about it.
So we've got some comments. We have friends said, thank you, great information. Tavo, it's a difficult topic because it's something we don't learn in school. Thank you, Bill, for the presentation. Very eye-opening.
Excellent. Great. Glad you enjoyed it.
I put the links to a couple of books in the comments. Well, one is called Bogleheads by John Bogle, the late John Bogle, about investments and how to look at money and things like that. And also Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money.
Yeah, I like John Bogle's book. He had some great books. He was a treasure.
And Bill and I were talking earlier about that. That we don't really take much in the way of money management courses, through through college when you're studying to be a doctor, to be a nurse. Your field is locked in. And as I mentioned, these jobs are generally not just 40-hour a week jobs either. So we don't have time to kind of watch how do you invest your money. It's I think important to have somebody that's helping you out on that.
One of the things that I started out too late, in my opinion, too late in doing is paying myself first, meaning and also automating that process. Meaning I'm taking money out of the checking account every single month to invest. And I personally, I mean, don't do what I do because your situation may be different.
Mhm.
I automatically put money in an index fund, meaning I'm not buying an individual stock because that's very risky.
Mutual
If Apple
fund,
were to
right?
go down, you just lost all your money. Whereas when I put money in an index fund, I'm investing in 500 different companies. If one of those 5 companies fails, I haven't lost significant, if any, amount of money because the amount invested in each company is different. And that index fund has a low expense ratio, often less than 0.2%. It's really, really low. The bottom line is it's really, really low. So you're using the key is using money to make money because you only have a limited amount of time. Trading time for money is not as efficient as using money to make money. That's something nobody else taught us. And also, please learn about compound interest. Please learn about compound interest. I didn't learn about that until I was in my mid 30s, and I was blown away. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so late to the game. But it's never too late. You just have to put stock more away when you're older in time to make up.
Bill, maybe you could address that issue on what it costs to invest and how it varies depending on who you're investing with.
It's a great point that you're bringing up on there. So indexing funds, fantastic way to kind of put money aside and set, like John was talking about. You know, I'm putting this away for the long term. Okay. If you're looking for a company, I would have to say Vanguard is the leader. Okay. And in cost effective funds. All right. If you're going to pay a money manager, okay, know why you're paying the money manager, because a money manager is going to cost anywhere between a point to a point and a half to manage your money. Okay. If your money manager is going to put your money into an index fund, what are you paying them for to do that? They're not really managing. Okay. But for instance, as an example, okay, we meet with clients on a quarterly basis. We do their Medicare planning. Okay. We do their tax strategies. If their balances are high enough, we do their taxes for them. We pay for them. We have an in-house tax department that does that. So there's a little bit more value to there. And then we might use indexes or ETFs, but we're also going to look at ways of minimizing the downturn. So if the market does go down, okay, there's ways of putting protection into there. If your fund manager is helping you do that, so you don't have to take the downturns, there's value to there. Otherwise, just pay an annual fee, not out of your total investments, but there's good advisors. You know, we have another way where someone just pays $150 a month, okay, for our advice. And it's either to roll out their plan or it's ongoing, depending on what they need. So you're not paying a whole lot of money. You know, that sounds like, oh, maybe it's a lot, but if you've got a $500,000 or $1 million portfolio, it's very inexpensive for what you're paying to get that advice, but you're still managing the account. But you're getting someone to bounce your ideas off of. All right. Mutual funds today, there's reasons to use them, but you don't have to. Like what John was referring to is the index funds and ETFs are so much more cost effective. And there's so many hidden fees inside of mutual funds and even 401ks. You're sitting, many of us have had multiple employers over the years. All right. Those 401ks that are sitting with the old employees, they're expensive because there's the administrative cost that's affiliated with a 401k. That's not the company is doing anything wrong, but people are taking loans out. People are being hired. People are being added on. There's just a lot of administrative cost that the plan absorbs. The contributors are paying for, okay? Getting those out of those employer plans and self-managing those, you're going to save a lot of money. Doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe I'm saving 1% every year, but over 10 years, that's 10%. Over 20 years, that's compounding fees that you're saving. Knowing why you're paying a fee, there's certain annuities have fees, and there's a reason. If the fee makes sense and you're getting something of value for it, great. If you're not, then it shouldn't be there. I hope that helped a little bit. I know.
So the problem is people don't know what they don't know, and they don't take the time to learn. And unfortunately, the U.S. Education system does not emphasize on financial literacy. And often some people prey on those who are not aware of the rules regarding finances in the U.S. If you live in the U.S., please, please, please take some time to learn about the U.S. financial system. You will thank me later.
They don't call them hidden fees for nothing, right?
Yeah.
No,
and a lot of people will say, oh, it's only 1% of the amount of money that we help you handle. That 1%, again, learn about compound interest. That 1% adds up over time. Again, opportunity cost. What can that 1% of money that they're charging you, not once, but every single year? How much is that costing you in the long run with time? That is what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people psychologically, again, money is very, very emotional. 1% adds up a lot over time.
I think the perfect example, if you don't know about compounding interest, go look at your mortgage for your house. See what you paid for the house originally, and by the end of your 30-year loan, what you paid for that loan. It'll show you how much you compounded it.
That's a great example. When you look at that number, okay, what you paid over 30 years. That's why the banks are in business.
Yep.
Okay. That's why they got the big, tall buildings. Okay.
A lot of people have no idea what an amortization table looks like. No. Unfortunately.
It's true. Like you hit it on the head. Our educational system has really faltered there. Not only, through high school, but I even think in the universities, it's unfortunate. I've talked to economic majors that have come out and they don't know who certain, like Morgan Friedman or Adam Smith are. They have an economics degree. That's scary.
Well, the indoctrination in universities is strong.
Unfortunately.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. Any other comments or concerns that anyone from the audience has? I don't see anything else showing up. I know money's confusing, and sometimes you don't even know what the right question to ask. Just know that there are people out there similar to Bill that can help you out with this, because in the healthcare industry, we do tend to work hard, earn a lot of money, and if you don't properly invest it, someday when you really need it, you're gonna wish you had.
Yeah, if someone has a question about something and would like to, my contact information is on some of those handouts on there. Give me a call, send me an email. There's no charge for a consultation, and just to ask questions. And keep in mind, there are no stupid questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no need to feel, oh, I don't know about this. Well, if you don't ask somebody, you're still not going to know.
Yep.
All right. But so there are no stupid questions to ask. And again, there's no charge for, a complimentary, hour of time to run through and ask questions.
Oh, that's a great offer. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap up the show. I think this was really fascinating to take a dive into the financial world and kind of get a little bit more information that'll be helpful. Next week, we're going to do something a little different. I couldn't help myself but to give another talk on AI, because it has changed so much. So we're going to have a talk on something.
This episode features Vic Sinise, RN, who will share insights on the practical applications and benefits of AI in healthcare education. He discusses real-world scenarios where AI has significantly improved the preparation of presentations. Additionally, this episode provides a step-by-step guide on using these AI tools, making it accessible for viewers to implement in their own practices. The potential of AI in medical presentations marks a significant step forward in healthcare education. Join euronurse.com next week to learn more.
I'm just going to say, if you've ever built a PowerPoint presentation before, you are going to love this episode because it's going to blow you away. That's all I'm going to tell you. Join me next week. And for those of you that are patients that are watching the show, besides learning about money, you want to learn more from the patient side, check out our podcast, the Europatient podcast at europatient.com, which is going to be following this show at 10:30. Otherwise, everybody have a great time and a great rest of your day. It's a beautiful day out here by me. Hope you're enjoying your summer. We'll see everybody next week on EuroNurse.
Thank you.
Bye.